Please welcome to the stage, Ryan McKeen.
Thank you so much. I will try not to fall off this stage as this is it's dark and the light is bright. But as I'm preparing for this talk this morning, I'm strolling through Instagram as one does, and in my feed comes Pope Leo. And Pope Leo says, "We are truly experiencing an eclipse of the sense of what it means to be human. It is in this sense that the challenge we are currently facing is not technological, it's anthropological." And I was brave enough to tackle saying the word anthropological. I think I did okay. But it really hits home, I think, because we talk a lot about AI, and as we should. AI is an incredible tool for productivity, for analysis. At its best, AI enhances. It allows us to serve more, better, ultimately make more money, and it's fantastic, right? But we're almost entering a post AI era, and what I mean by that is, way back in the old days, some of you will remember there used to be like iPads for lawyers conferences and events, right? Like nobody has that. The iPad is not a competitive advantage. We all have the same cell phones, and we all have access to Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or one of the paid legal products like Eve or Filevine. We have these abilities at incredibly low cost to harness incredibly powerful technology. So the question is really, what do we do? And like all problems in law firms or organizations in general, they are fundamentally leadership problems. And this is an age in which you, as a lawyer, as a law firm leader, as a community leader, as a person, are going to be challenged to lead. And I should start changing slides because I've got like a bunch of them, but you are fundamentally all right, implementing courage, right? And what I mean by that is, for a long time, things have been pretty much the same. And yeah, I've been a lawyer for 20 years, and we went from paper to the cloud to case management software that was developed, but it's kind of sort of been a slow but a natural progression, right? This is very different. This is very fast. This is very swift. And this will touch every single sector of the economy. So, as I stand here, I can't tell you what my business will look like in 3 years. None of you can say what your business will look like in 3 years. The change is that disruptive. And I think for you and for your teams and for your firms, it is really about the courage to acknowledge that, the courage to be vulnerable, the courage to say, I don't know the seas that we are sailing, because it does take courage to confront that, to hit that head on, to say, we're going to be okay. We're going to figure it out, but we don't know. We don't know. I mean, for all I know, Claude Anthropic has dropped some update that has rendered us all obsolete in the time I've been on stage, right? It's certainly possible, but you need to have the courage to understand the change, to be vulnerable, and to be okay with the uncertainty, because it will be the only constant for the foreseeable future. So what we're talking about now isn't so much technology, it is people. I remember when my first day of being a law student, I went to federal court, and it was a Judge Ponzer in Springfield. And Judge Ponzer said something that stayed with me for my whole career, which is that law is a very human profession. And all the best of humanity, all the worst of humanity, all the inadequacies of humanity, all of it plays out in the legal sphere. And certainly all of it plays out within law firms. So you aren't just dealing with widgets in your firm, you are dealing with people, people who have feelings, people who have needs, people who are trying to serve other people, people who are trying to get their work done and get home for dinner and attend the Little League game. You are dealing with people. And what we sometimes see is law firms will go out, lawyers will go to a great conference like this. They'll meet a great vendor over there. The vendor has a great product and it falls flat. It falls flat. Why? Was the owner solving a problem that they perceived that they had, or was the owner listening to their team? Was the owner understanding how this empowers their team, or were they just excited about the cost savings or the potential to take on more work or make more money? But as we strip away, I mean, and look, this technology is just so powerful. You can build whatever it is you can think of on your phone by basically telling Claude what it is that you want to do. I mean, it's wild and it's not perfect, but imagine in 6 months from now when it's an order of magnitude better than it is today, but you're still left with people. So what I see is, firms get very excited about AI, or some of them do, and they're looking at software. They're like, hey, do I use Eve, or do I use Supio, or do I use Filevine AI? And the truth is that they're all good products. You would be okay with all of them. How long of a subscription do I need? Is this something that is going to change very quickly? How do I prompt AI to get the result it is that I want? How do I build out my Eve for so the workflows align, right? And those are the very technical conversations that people have. But what I really, really think it's that courage to be vulnerable. It is listening to your people. It's of no surprise to me that Eric Schmidt from Google at University of Arizona got booed for talking about AI, as did another commencement speaker. Americans are more skeptical about AI than ever. There's an article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. So we're starting to see real AI backlash. I will tell you, my law students, I teach at University of Connecticut School of Law, they are not super pro AI. They are like, this is scary. They don't they're not as into it. People I meet who are really into AI tend to be over the age of 40, which is a different demographic than usual. Usually it's the younger generation who we've assumed will tackle the tech issues, right? It starts with also building real trust with your team as a leader, being present with them, following through on what it is that you say you're going to do and what it is that you mean, and being honest with them, being absolutely honest of, we don't know where this is going to go, or your job is going to change. We don't know how it's going to change, but we know that it's going to change. How we work is changing because AI is not a tool anymore. It is how work gets done. And also trust that we're going to do things like use our expanded bandwidth to do better work product, to help more people, to give back more to the community, to pick up the phone and talk to our clients. A phone call is going to be more valuable now, 5 years from now, than it is right now. So those things are incredibly important. And it really requires leaders to look outward and then look inward and effectuate that change and guide that change. And I sort of think of it as having a steady hand in a ship in a storm, because that's where you are going to be finding yourself. I would listen to them too. And look, I say, yeah, I go to a conference like this and get really excited about something. And then I'd come back to the office and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I demoed this thing and it's going to solve all of our world's problems, right? It doesn't work that way. They go, Ryan, that's nice. I got discovery to get out. I got a depot to do. They didn't like that very much. But I think it is very important that you listen to your team. You listen about what they are scared about. You listen about what they need. You listen too for what it is that they like to do. Right. And I hate to say this, but if you have paralegals who just love doing medical chronologies, yeah, they should probably start looking for new work. But if you have paralegals who are really great at communicating with clients, at helping clients through difficult moments, at picking up the phone, at calling, at understanding the human element, those people are going to be enabled to do a lot more, right? So listen to what your team wants, what it is that they are telling you, and think about how this tech is not just how it's changing everything, how it's changing how it is that we work. But I would strongly begin with listening to your team, listening to what problems that they have, listening to where the bottlenecks, listening to your own data. where the bottlenecks in your process are, and then trying to solve for those things as opposed to just getting excited about some new app or getting excited and going, oh my gosh, I vibe coded something on Claude that's going to change our firm. Listen to them. Yeah. And this is, I mean, this is a real thing where, we may want our employees to be super tech enabled. We may want them to be using the tools that we bought at a conference like this that are very effective. We may want them to be doing a whole host of things, but practically, if you're managing lawyers, they've got depositions and they've got trials and they've got your paralegals have demands and discovery. They've got all these things where they are, and change is not something that a lot of people like. It's something that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people who work in law firms, a lot of people in general, they typically want today to be or tomorrow to be a lot like yesterday. It's comforting, it's routine, right? And you need to meet them there, which I think for a lot of us means not be so excited, not sell it as a panacea, not recognizing that your team is busy and taking enablement of technology very, very, very seriously. And it's not like I see Andy Sievers here. It's not like you can just buy case status and go, hey, we have case status, right? It needs to be thought out. There needs to be feedback. There needs to be committees. You need to be talking about what this technology is, how to use it, and guide them through the process, right? Learning, education, being human is a very, very, very big process. Don't just say, "Hey, case status is great. We're using it and you're going to love it and your clients are going to love it and it's easy to use." All of those things are very true, but there is a human on your team who is trying to figure out where it fits into their life. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of excitement surrounding AI, and there's a lot of fear, a lot of fear. I don't know that anything is as transformative or any of our jobs or companies are safe from anything, right? The way this technology is progressing, when you see Google I/O, Demis Habis speaking about singularity last week or this week, I don't even know what week it is, but he's speaking about singularity and AI models that build themselves and think for themselves. And what that all means, where humans are not controlling the AI, like that is a profound, profound change that has massive societal disruption, right? I think you need to say, this is scary. It's normal to feel scared. It's normal to take a look if you're a paralegal at a product like Eve or Supio and go, my gosh, there's my job. There's my job. It's important for you to also say, honestly, here's how we're going to navigate through this. Here's how we're going to navigate through this fear to transform our practice to make things better. Because as humans, we are wired to focus. We are so much more wired. If I took $100 bill from you, you're going to be very upset. If I gave you $100 bill, you're going to be like, oh, that's cool. And you're going to walk out of this hotel in an hour or two, and you're going to have forgotten about that $100 bill. But if I took $100 bill from you, you're going to be like, man, that jerk. You're going to feel it forever, right? And so the idea that people are losing things, as excited as we get that, oh, it's going to free up more time and you're going to be able to do more things, they're going to get sad that they are losing something, maybe a skill that they had worked for years and trained for years to be very good at. They're going to be upset that it is lost. You are essentially taking that $100 bill, not giving them $100. I think a lot of it boils down to making space for enablement in your law firms. I think one of the things that I've seen firms do and I advise firms to do is to really hire a technologist, somebody whose job it is to do this. Many firms have hired in house marketing people. I think an in house technological person is very, very important because all of the products that you're using are changing and all of the products are getting better. but there's also all of these needs that happen in your firm. So you can't stay on top of all of the updates. You can't stay on top of all that's possible. And I think dedicating a person who is very interested in this and can teach, who can actually teach it. They don't need to be coding. You're not competing for software engineers. You're showing them the possibilities. You're literally sitting down with them, next to them, one by one, and using these apps and using these things and showing them how to use it. Because I think, I can get into a mode where it's just like, oh, yeah, you just do this, right? It's easy to do. And in fact, it may or may not be for them. And you start working with them on solving their problems. Hey, what are your problems in communicating with clients? Okay, how can we do this? Well, one of my problems is that it doesn't translate. We have a client who speaks Mandarin and I have to copy and paste and I've got to translate. They may not even be aware that case status can have AI translation to have that happen automatically. So show them what they can do, right? Show them how they can use it today. One of the great things about this is you can build and ship and move very, very quickly. So if they've got some problem, say it's the reconciliation of receipts in a personal injury case for out of pocket expenses, show them how to build that into Claude and how to solve that problem and how to create a spreadsheet and how to use it within your systems and give them those small wins, those dopamine hits of doing something that is incredibly important and also take it small. One of the things that, you know, some I'll speak for myself, but it's like I get excited about things and I get really into something and it's just like, but not everybody's that way. Show them one thing, make one process improvement a week, one new skill a week, and what will happen is, it's almost like a trick. It's like come to the gym once, come to the, just come once and then all of a sudden people, find themselves all ripped, 9 months later because they got hooked. And I think that that is a very powerful tool to motivate people, right? Don't, this is one where, I don't know, managing people sucks. It's a very hard thing to do. I don't know if anybody does it well. I'm sure somebody does, but it's really hard. And especially in this age where, your team are knowledge workers. They're not punching a clock. You need to not tell them what to do. You need to coach them. You need to level up your understanding of these tools, how best to use them, what best practices that there are, and coach them. And coaches, what do? They provide feedback. They provide honest feedback into how to use this. They also provide encouragement. Keep going with this project. Keep cool. You learned how to use GitHub. Awesome. Like, keep encouraging and coaching. But what I'm trying to implore you to do is not just buy software, but live it and live it with your people because there are very significant gains to be had by taking this as a core business function in 2026. Okay. It's not an app. It is a core way of how it is that you work. This is another one where so many in law, I often think, a product like Filevine or any of these softwares, they solve like big problems. And I like to think of it in terms of shipping, right? It's easier for logistics companies to get a container from Shenzhen, China to the port of Long Beach than it is to get it from a warehouse to your house, right? And the last mile problem is a very real problem in logistics, but it's also a very real problem in your firms. And it's a knowledge problem and it's a tool problem. And you want to optimally empower and educate your team to be able to solve their problems because you all live in your world, they all live in their world. And it's like if they have the very tools that they need to learn, to execute, and to do, that becomes a very powerful tool. And we tend to think of technological implementation and management as sort of a top down decision. We're using Office 365, we're using Filevine, we're doing this, right? But you can build things so easily. And I'm not a coder. I took Java 25 years ago in college, and I used to write websites using JavaScript. But I don't do this, and I was like, I want to create a simple app that monitors my docket. I just told Claude Code, this is what I want you to do, and then it goes out and it does an hour. It goes into GitHub. It does a pull request every hour, pulls the cases, updates the filing, and if there's a new filing, it sends it to me in Slack. Now, it's probably only useful to me, but these are tools that your paralegals or your lawyers can do. And, we're not talking about hallucinations, or we're not talking about complicated things or even expensive things. This is a few lines of code with simply me actually talking through whisper flow at Claude and saying, this is what I want you to do. And it literally doing it and hitting 100% of the time. So look, and your paralegals and your team and your lawyers are bogged down by lots of last mile problems, and you want them to be able to solve them. You want to have AI policies that allow them to solve them, that allow them to solve them safely. You're not just giving out API keys all over the place and spreading that all over the internet and doing it, but you need process implementation, okay? Because you want the gains of your team being able to solve problems themselves. We're one of my least favorite words is the word moat, because I don't think that there are a whole lot of moats. You'll see that data is the moat. This is the very tech phrase right now. I don't know. I'm not so sold that judgment is a moat. Okay, I'm not, especially as we're talking about artificial general intelligence, right? But as long as we are human and we are dealing with other humans, trust is what matters most. Trust from your team, trust from your clients. Trust is really showing up, being honest, following through. It's very, very, very human. That in the age of AI or post AI era is currency. Trust is absolute currency. And it's not that it hasn't been before. Lawyers whose word it is their bond always had a business advantage. But I think even more so as it becomes harder to distinguish work product, it becomes harder to distinguish processes. Use of AI is not a technological advantage any more than using an iPhone is right now. What you want to do is you want to find your people who are very, very excited about this, right? These are people who are maybe your lawyers, your paralegals, your case managers. Identify who they are and shift some of that enablement and leadership onto them to solve those problems. Because then it's peer to peer, it's not top down. And those are going to be the people who are going to help your firm grow, help you lead change. And you really want to know who those people are. You all have them on your team, and you all have people who are like, yeah, no, that's not for me. Right. Which is my next slide, which is if you are having people who are resistant to this, they're going to have to go. This is not an option. It is not an option anymore to not use this stuff than it is to have paper files in 2026. You shouldn't have them. You need people who are embracing this change, who are riding along with you. Right. I think, like, intersectionality is a thing. And I think, the language of law and the technology of law are now forever intertwined. So as you're hiring people, what is and they don't have to be a coder or an engineer, but what is their technical interest? Like, what is their technical knowledge? Where do they go? And do they combine that with legal knowledge? Because that to me is where lawyers are going to be able to make a lot of money, to do a lot of good, and you want to be hiring for this skill set as much as possible. And sometimes it's not going to work. You have to be honest about things that are not going to work. You have to create feedback loops in your firm for, hey, we thought this would do really great and it's not. Or, hey, partner, it's really cool that you vibe coded this thing, but not working. You want to have that trust and that relationship with your people, because AI will mess up. Humans mess up. We all mess up. And I think all of this for all of us, or at least for me, is uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable. I mean, I've got kids and I'm like, should they go to college? Right. And that's a weird question to be asking, but it's an awkward era for sure. And I think you want to show up authentically, you want to talk to them honestly, you want to maximize what it means for them to be human, to do the job, to pick up the phone, to actually help people because those are the things that are going to build trust and that trust is currency for you, right? And it comes down to bring it full circle, and I got 2 minutes left, so I'm gonna wrap it up, is it really comes down to courage. You have to have the courage to lead through this, the courage to understand what's going on in a macro sense, the courage to understand what is going on in society. Pay attention to bigger trends. Pay attention. Read that Pew Research poll on AI. AI backlash is going to be one of the top political issues going forward for the next gosh knows how many years, where people are upset about data centers. People are upset about job displacement. People are distrustful of the machine. So you need to really understand those things and embrace what it is because you can't change them. But I think you need to work with them. And I think that really does require being uncomfortable. All right. Thank you.